Hello, everyone. Hopefully you have been having a very, very empowering day with lots of inspiration and ideas and verve. And we're going to continue on down that path. So I am Elizabeth Lembke, and welcome to Crossover Vitality, Viability, and Vulnerability. I am the Chief Talent Navigator at Transforming Talent. I am originally from Oregon. Go Ducks! And I live out of Germany for, I'll just say 20 plus years, because after a certain time, we just stop counting. It's all in the mix. And that's me.
Sorry. Since my name is next to yours. Hi, everyone. I'm Saira Sethi, and I live in New York. I am actually been a globetrotter. I've lived in Saudi Arabia, India, Singapore, and New York. So this is my fourth location, and I hope this is permanent. Psychology has been my background, psychology and counseling. But in terms of my career, I spent most of my time in luxury retail. I'm also a mystery shopper, so I assess service by luxury brands. Right now, I'm an instructional designer with a brand coach, and this is one of my favorite topics, so very, very excited to be here.
Love it.
Over to Jane.
Love that. I didn't know you were a mystery shopper, Sarah. I'm going to do that with you when I'm in New York.
Exactly.
So I am all the way in Cape Town, South Africa, where there isn't maybe as much shopping as where Sarah is. But I'm really excited to be here today because one of my favorite places is to be able to go with people who feel like they want to build their confidence and build their skills to be able to succeed in interviews and make that next career transition. And I do this with 25 years of experience in the recruitment industry, which I never planned to get. I studied law and drama and psychology and ended up in this by default, but just love it. And so I'm so excited to use what I've learned over the years to help people make better hiring decisions from a company's perspective, but then to help candidates or applicants make their next step forward through being confident in their interviews.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So yeah, excited about this session. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Saira.
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I am just ecstatic. Yeah, I think it's that crossover that really we don't talk about enough. We talk about wellness, but we don't and how we're earning money. But those aspects of vulnerability, that there's a human in the mix, and how we go there. It's so important. So yeah.
I think, if we look at this, we look at vitality, and sometimes I think with vitality, we think, okay, this has got to be the extreme sport, the hyper energetic, loads of energy overflowing. And sometimes what vitality takes is just consistency, just somebody making those little micro decisions every day that are going to help them stay healthy, strong, energetic, and move forward. And I think with that, as they make plans, it's so important that they're viable. And I think this is one of the hardest things for me because I love the ideas and I love the excitement of it. And sometimes I feel like, are we really going to make it into a SMART goal? It's almost like you just pop the balloon, But on the other hand, I think one of my favorite proverbs is hope deferred makes the heart sick. And if we put our hope into something that is not going to happen, it's actually depressing. And I think it destroys hope. So important to ensure viability. Yeah. And then I think the vulnerability we can't talk about without mentioning Brené Brown. I love one of her definitions. She says it's basically uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure. And she says, I was raised in a get her done and suck it up family and culture, very Texan, German American, so a bit of all of us. The tenacity and grit part of that upbringing served me, but I wasn't taught how to deal with uncertainty or how to manage emotional risk. Yeah. And that got in the way of her viability and her vitality. So I love her work around that and how it pulls all of these three together.
So well said. So well said. And I think how are these three pulled together? So this is really then very striking. And for me, back when we were originally talking about this discussion of what is that crossover, what is that juxtaposition? So I shared this also yesterday, and this is that aspect of what is my life? It's not enough to be busy. So are the ants? What is it that we're busy about? And at the center of this is the research that was done back in 2020, fairly at the beginning of the pandemic, from McKinsey and Oxford Economics, that time boxed the virus and the economic shock into two imperatives. So they had the first one, safeguard our lives, so our vitality, our health, and the safeguard our livelihoods, read our viability. And then what they neglected to plot onto their graph was the energy toll that it was to make it through these times. And how are we as a human juggling those key imperatives? And that is our vulnerability. And it was completely ignored. And so this aspect of what is the exhaustion, what is the burnt out, what is the, I don't know why it's so hard for me to even like go downstairs and get that second cup of tea, even to that end. And how can we tell? So one question, you know, and I want you guys to do a little bit of time travel back with me to 2019. So think about a 2019 answer to this question, and then think about a 2021 answer to this question. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
How you doing? So if I were to have said to your 2019 self, how you doing? What would you have answered?
Great.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. Excited, full of plans.
Yeah, fine, great. I'm excited, full of plans. It's all the verb. All right.
Anna says cold.
Cold. That is awesome. Hopeful.
Hopeful, says Ingrid.
That is very good. I love it. Okay. Now we're time travel. Welcome to 2021, middle of strangeness. It's the end of September. Are your kids going back? Are they not going back? So I ask you the question again. How you doing? What's your answer now? Middle of strangeness, end of August.
September, I would say it changes every day.
Changes every day. Yeah.
Yeah, uncertain. It's just, I don't think we can get away from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like we're committing ourselves, battling hopelessness, very true. It feels like we're committing ourselves to an answer because there's so much weighted truth to what I'm telling you when you ask me how I'm doing. Before, it was more of a social nicety to say, okay, this is just kind of that thing that we do. It's entering the conversation. It's making that space. But now the actualization is when we're in this middle of the strangeness, it's really a difficult one to answer because it was, we're looking more and we're understanding that complex interweaving of our work life, our home life, our school life, our financial life, our social life, our health life, family, heck, even our self-life, to be truly, truly honest here. And it's because these things have become more front and center in our conversations than they were in the past. We're showing up more human and vulnerable because the lipstick on the pig just is not cutting it anymore. And we can't do it the way that we were doing. And this pandemic, in terms of like, what has it done to the self, is also this actualization of where were we being busy as ants that's no longer served. It's like we're not willing to do that BS anymore, to say, how do we make it real as to what we're doing and having those conversations around realness. So this aspect of our vitality, our health, our livelihood, and our vulnerability have come, that juxtaposition is becoming more and more apparent. And as we move forward, also thinking about how can this also be very helpful to us? Yeah.
Yeah, I see in the chat, Suzanne echoed what you said, Liz, where she said, I was a mess, but probably would have said fine. And I think there's so many of us who, absolutely spot on. We just kind of, fine, without thinking about it. But now, we're more real. I love that.
Yeah. And like Manisha said, the responses change by the hour sometimes.
Exactly, Manisha. You are so right. You are so right.
Like, meet me in an hour.
Exactly. Check in an hour. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a great pivot to this, and how we love surveys, and McKinsey is, of course, our favorite place to go. A McKinsey report that talked about certain factors in predicting where a lot of us are making changes, right? Considering whether we want to downshift our careers, or some of them who want to even leave the workforce. So some of the factors are the lack of flexibility. Maybe you're not in a flexible environment. People are, even if you're working from home, you're not given the freedom to work your own hours, especially if you have kids. You're looking after elderly people, whatever that is, right? Yeah. And then the next one that came up is also, we have a need to always be available. For me, for instance, I have for me at work, we use Zoom, and we have an unstructured time between 12 to 1, which is every day. We don't schedule any meetings. That is our own personal time. But there's a weird guilt that I have sometimes. Oh, but I'm working from home. Yes. So why should I take this entire hour off, right? So that feeling of like, oh yeah, I finished my lunch in 15 minutes and I should be back on. Yeah. What if somebody needs me? Nobody's going to need me in like 20 minutes. And these are things we didn't think about when we were physically in the workspace. The next one that we have is, so many of us have additional responsibilities, people who have kids. Some of us don't have kids, but I have an overgrown child, my husband.
Sounds very familiar.
Who can't seem to find anything anywhere. So that's another conversation. But of course, there's more and more responsibilities when we work from home. We're trying to juggle between duties at home and duties at work. And of course, with that, there's always a constant worry, right? They say the people that judge you the most is yourself.
Yes.
Nobody judges us more. We are the worst critics, worst judge. And we're always constantly thinking about, oh, if I took this extra 20 minutes, I wonder if somebody's going to think that I didn't do my job well, or I took an extra 20 minutes off. Whereas I personally think we always try to compensate for that time that we take. So, for instance, you went for a doctor's appointment in the middle of the day. Doesn't mean just because the appointment was an hour that you have to work an extra hour. It's the quality of the work that you put in, something that I have to remind myself. And then another thing that happens with that is we're also worried about how, okay, if I am vulnerable, if I share this with my colleagues or my managers, especially during COVID, some of us are like always worried about, oh, but if I say this, will they think negatively of me? Will I lose my job? Will this affect my performance? So I'm pretty sure this sounds familiar to many of us.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. And I think that that's really then also where, because of these stressors and because of these elements that have really been waiting on our vitality, our viability, and our vulnerability, this is where then there's also been a big shift. And I was talking about this yesterday around the talent development in the middle of strangeness, is that we're actually shifting more towards a safety economy, and that the value drivers of what makes an attractive employer for you is really shifting since the pandemic. And there are a number of different areas which are showing how people are really, it's not about the compensation. If I'm going to be making $3 more, what's the flexibility? So here, as we look to what those safety drivers are, they're space, safety, quality, proximity. So how close am I? Family time, affirmation, being seen and appreciated for what you bring to the table, social connection, supporting, not selling, authenticity, and then truly being after the health and well-being, rather than saying, we'll give you a coupon for the gym, or we'll have a gym that's right above production. You go there. Yeah. So really, truly understanding that these value drivers in our current economy have become much stronger than they were considered in the past. And Jane, you are going to share some of your perspectives out of how this has affected recruiting.
Yeah, I think when you talked about health and well-being and the way, and you talked about the kind of company cultures, I see that Anna also in the chat has talked about trust. And I think that what we've seen recently is so many articles around the Great Resignation. And we're seeing people really seriously thinking about, who do I want to work for? Is it worth it? I was actually speaking to somebody about this today, and they were saying, so, because a lot in recruitment, people kind of work almost on commission. They'll only be paid if they make a placement from an agent's perspective. And they said to me in one of my workshops today, they said, Jane, so how did you make that shift from saying I'm only going to be paid if I per chance find the right person to, you're actually charging by the hour? And I was like, sure. It actually, I think when I had kids and I realized how important that was for me, that we wanted to spend time as a family, I thought, for all the hours I work for a client, I am not with my family. I'm absolutely going to charge you by the hour, because, it's time I'm taking away from the people who are the most important to me. And one day I'm not going to regret not having made more money, but I will regret if I don't spend time in the things that are meaningful and purposeful. And so, and I think what we've seen in workshops that we've been doing recently talk to these aspects as well, because people are saying, what, we want to do that, but we find it difficult. So of course, there's always that balance of, I also need to live, and what's more important from that perspective. But people are finding it hard to look after themselves, not just with their employers giving them, access to counselors, etc. But they're saying, I'm finding it hard to wake up every morning and just go for a walk, or drink water, or eat healthily, and I'm missing being able to do that with people. And especially what you're saying, Anna, around the company culture and the trust. We had a leadership group who said they were becoming so scared in this remote environment to just make a mistake, because they felt like there's no water cooler conversation, there's no download connection time. And what they're having to do is take such care over things, because they're so afraid that if they make a mistake, work will be taken from them. It's career limiting, and they'll be blind copied, in an email somewhere, that other people are blind copied, to about the mistake they made. So it's hard. It's hard to be vulnerable, and there's that tension between all of these things.
Yeah.
So Saira, we were talking about these things as well, around the brave choices that people have to make in those situations.
Wow, that's a great direction we're going to. The brave choices. So of course, something I have, in my narrative about myself changed last year. And one of the reasons was I got a job, my first job after 5 years of living in the United States, last year in the peak of a pandemic in April. And of course, I was very happy. It started off well. A few months down the line, and then this was last year in sometime November, the company was based in Italy. They asked me to travel to Italy to be there for Thanksgiving. So not only did they ask me to cancel my paid time off, I was planning to go and visit my brother, but also to travel to Italy. And those days the flights were also complicated. I would have to go via X amount of countries, quarantine a lot. Anyway, I wasn't comfortable. 6 months in the job, and I'm like, no. But if I say no, what if they fire me? Right. And every day you go on LinkedIn, I'm only seeing people losing jobs. So I was like, okay, so what do I do? And I'm glad that I was very lucky to have one or two friends that I could just, just as a sounding board, that I'm not the one who thinks this is insane. I thought I was losing my mind. I thought maybe I'm overreacting. And God bless this friend of mine. And she was like, we went for a walk, and she said, no, you can totally say no because of health reasons. And what kind of pissed me off was not about how it was received in terms of the HR. It was told to me as if they were doing me a favor
Yeah.
towards my development and growth. So if I don't go, I'm the one who's losing out. And I said no. Yes, I have to say, I was shitting in my pants when I said no. But the interesting thing is, when I said no, 5 other people said no.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me, and one of them in Spain reached out to me and said, what I didn't do in 3 years, you did in 6 months. And that was a great validation to know.
Yeah.
I've done this so many times, made choices out of fear.
Yeah.
I've stopped that cycle now.
Yeah.
So yes, anyway, fast forward, I told myself, okay, instead of being afraid of looking for another job, what do I want to focus on? I want to put my energy towards love. What do I love? I wanted to get back to retail. I was like, oh, there's no scope. I don't think so. I'm like, no, every day I remember love over fear, love over fear. Fast forward, I found this job in January with Coach. I love my job. I love my new company. I have amazing colleagues that I work with, and I couldn't be more grateful. So yes, at that point, it was a very difficult decision, but I'm so glad I chose that.
So proud of you. Yeah. And that's a wonderful example of being that brave one to say, okay, does this even make sense? And being that first one to raise your hand, and particularly in your job. Jane, what about you? When was something where you were choosing love over fear?
Well, back to our kids, I think my first one was resigning from the organization that I was working for because they were so unhappy that I was pregnant. So that was kind of somewhere where I'd planned my career growth. So I thought, okay, starting my own company, that was brave. I definitely had my husband's encouragement and support. So I love that he's always behind me, a bit how Ingrid feels about John. And then I think in the end, selling our recruitment agency, because we wanted to spend more time with our kids. And I think spending that 1 year at home, like on purpose, saying I'm not going to work, was actually, it was wonderful, but it was so, it was good for me, but it was hard because my character is so go, results oriented. To say, wow, I'm going to spend some time where I don't see any results very fast, and no one's saying,
that is hilarious.
So I think those were brave for me, but I'm so grateful because without those, I wouldn't be able to help people the way that I can today. So really grateful. And you, Liz?
Man, I think choosing love over the fear. So, when I went to Germany, the only thing I cared about is that I could mountain bike around a lake. So it really wasn't that aspect that I didn't speak German when I came over. I was just like, okay, this is something I'm going to do. But where I actually truly had a challenging time was saying, okay, moving from having a job in a company where I had colleagues every day and going into that brave space of being an entrepreneur as a consultant. And for me, it has been truly challenging because I'm like, okay, I can't tell others to go into that brave space and that space of unknown. I've been doing it for 9 years as a talent director, to then say, okay, gosh darn it, all the heck, Liz, you got to do it. And so, but giving myself that 3-year kind of experiment. And then here in May saying, okay, you're going to continue on. This is the space you need to be in. You're learning so much. So even if I'm not earning what I was earning as a regular salary, et cetera, having that love and understanding of what options do I have available to me as a consultant, which I didn't have in my old role as a director because I was traveling 85% of the time and I was just exhausted. That was really for me a big brave piece to say, okay, this is not sustainable. You're loving what you're doing, but you're getting tired of what you're doing. And that's not a space I wanted to be in.
Yeah, I love that, Liz. Thanks. And I think we were saying also earlier when we were chatting, we're saying it's not about fear disappearing.
No.
It's about saying, what fear, Sarah, I loved how you put it. What fear is driving along in the car with me?
Yes,
that
exactly.
I'm going to keep. And there's many fears, but which ones am I going to give into and listen to, and which ones am I going to say, no, that's okay?
Yeah,
I think that's the
exactly.
place of vulnerability. We've been conditioned to say, don't talk about your fears, brush it under the carpet. And
Yeah.
Class, because I was always afraid if I spoke about what's the worst that could happen, it would happen. Honestly, it works the other way around. The moment you release that fear from your body and your mind, you're not giving it as much power.
Yes.
Because otherwise, it's just festering inside like a disease.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So well said. Oh, mic drop. Well said, Saira. Okay. Well, and one thing that we want to do, so originally we were going to go out to the tables, but one thing that we wanted to do is kind of share here with one another kind of a brave choice that you have made in your career journey. And we also thought, you know what, to get into this space, sometimes it's important to also show those kind of those vulnerable pieces. So we thought we would share first, and I will kick us off, and then I will turn it over to you all in chat, is one unique quirk that others may not know about you. So I am hyper organized. People don't know it. And I'm also a hyper decorator. If I come even into a hotel room, I'm going to decorate it. It's really hilariously bad, but that's me. So that is my quirk. So what other quirks we got going on?
Oh my God, Liz, I think we were sisters born from another mother. I didn't know this about you. So I have this weird quirk. I like things in either an ascending or a descending order.
Yes.
So like I have these 3 things on my desk, and it can't be one in the small one in the middle. It has to be in an order. I always make my bed, no matter how many times I've taken a nap. I cannot sleep on a bed that's not made. I will make the bed in the hotel room too.
Exactly. See, aesthetics matter. That makes me happy.
That is so funny. I'm so happy not to make my bed. In fact, I'm really annoyed if someone else makes it for me. But I think that so I think one of the things that I love, but I think people do know this about me, is 90% dark chocolate. And I take it with me wherever I go. It's even on my desk right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That is awesome. Okay. All right. Quirk. Okay. I love science fiction movies and have been watching the Marvel movies. Yes. Over again during the pandemic. It is. Yes. Therapeutic storytelling.
Love that, Suzanne.
That is awesome. Okay, I was just going to ask a follow-up question, but we can do that later. About how do we feel about the Black Widow in Disney? What's going on there? But we'll take that offline.
Table topic.
Table topic. Also hyper closet sorted. Yes.
Oh my God, Ingrid.
Yes. Yes. Juicy topic. I love it. So we want to just kind of say, so yes, so we're all in the mix. We're all of these 3 things. So our quirks make us as part of the beauty that we are. We have created a resource booth in the booths area of the ARMY, and you can go there. So we just put a couple of articles that we really found and some ideas, and we would love it if you would share your own with us. Yeah. So as we continue to go down this path of seeing our viability, our vitality, and our vulnerability, we really appreciate that we're in this together. So with that, we would love your feedback. So yes, if you would be so kind, we would be eternally grateful. And I will put that link in our chat box. And then, of course, those are our LinkedIn profiles. So we would love to connect with each one of you.
Please connect. We'd love that.
Yes.
All right. My feedback, you're all amazing. Well, right back at you.
Anna says, "Would you come and visit sometimes?" Well, Anna, you'd be amazed. I remember visiting my cousin, and I asked her, "Can I clean your drawers?" Just like, what? I'm like, "Yeah, I'm bored. Can I organize your drawers?"
That is too wonderful.
Maybe I will come and visit, Anna.
Yeah, exactly. Hey,
Imagine Liz and Saira on holiday together.
Oh my God.
Yes, yes, I will. So before I moved to Germany, I lived 3 months in Italy, and I had lunch twice a day from my mama to my friend's mama because it just was so delicious. So anytime anyone has Italy on their mind, I am so there. Choosing love over fear. All right. Love it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Saira.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.